Good morning. I'm glad you're here. We have a great class for you in store today. You know what? I'm your friend. Did you know that? You may not even know me, but I'm your friend. You know what? A friend is going to tell you the truth. It may hurt sometimes. It may be uncomfortable sometimes, but a true friend is going to lead you in the way that you should go. We have learned so many lies. And my desire is for you to know Yehovah's plan for you. That said, let's review. Review. We're talking about the first 3 chapters of Genesis. Foundational chapters for understanding Yehovah's word. You know what? You don't know where you're going until you know where you came from. Many of us have thoughts in our minds that have led us to believe that we're in a place that we're not in. We've got to learn the truth. It says in the last days there's going to be a strong delusion that's going to fall on the world. You know what? We've got a strong delusion. When we came out of Egypt, we still wanted to serve all those Elohim, didn't we? We went back to our calves. We went back to our Elohim. For heaven's sakes, we made a golden calf. Well, you know what? We have a modern day golden calf. We have many modern day golden calves. It might be the Constitution of the United States of America. It may be the Elohim of the land, and it may be this man you call Yeshua or Jesus. False gods designed to lead you away from the Elohim, Ruach Elohim, the creator of all things. We do not want to go there. It's going to get us killed. That said, let's begin our review from last week. We left off the week before in right around the 20th verse of chapter 3. Remember, we were talking about man has become like one of us. That's what most Bibles say. But that is not what it says in the Hebrew. Here's what it says in the Hebrew. Behold, Ha-Adam. This is not his woman. This is Ha-Adam. Is become first from his kind. He has created a new creature on the earth. Something that Yehovah never planned to have created. It's a new kind. He's going to produce a different kind of seed than Yehovah planned for him to have. What seed was it? Do you remember? Oh, it's the seed that all men have come from. It's called the seed of Belial. Belial, worthless and wicked men. Men who come from the ground and return to the ground. They live all their life dwelling on the earth and never learned to dwell in heaven. as opposed to the man, Ha-Adam, that Yehovah created. What was the man like that he created? Remember, he was in his own image. He had glory and honor and immortality. We gave it up. We gave it up when we failed to follow Yehovah's instructions to be fruitful on the earth. Forget multiplying. If you're not fruitful, why bother? Nothing you have is going to endure. And we saw that being fruitful for a man and being fruitful for a woman is two different things. It's not about woman keeping the commandments of Yehovah. It's about the woman obeying her man. Oh, like I say, you know what? I'm your friend. A friend's going to tell you the truth, show you the way that you should go. We saw that the commandments were given to Ha-Adam even before the woman was made. About caring for the garden. He was the one who named all the animals. He was the one who named the woman. Bone of his bone, flesh of his flesh. You know what? A woman has no relationship with Yehovah until she's got a man in her life. Because if you're not going to do the things that you were created to do, which was what? Etzer Kenegdo. Be an aid suitable for your man. Then you have no relationship with Yehovah. Does a woman go into the temple? Does a woman bring a shalamim? Does a woman kill an animal? No. We have learned life. Does a woman come into covenant with Yehovah? Oh, you know what? You have this New Testament caca. I'm being nice. That you have created your theology around, and it is going to get you killed. Does Yehovah change? Does his word endure forever? Most people will say yes. His word endures forever. And no, he doesn't change. But in the same sentence, they'll say, but don't you know Jesus changed this? Folks, you've been handed a bill of goods to turn you away from Yehovah's eternal and unchanging ways. That is our only safety. Who did he drive out of the garden? The man or the woman? Well, let's take a look. Here it is, verse 24. So he drove Ha-Adam. Adam is the one that was sent out of the garden. Ha-Adam, the man. Well, remember, where the man goes, so goes his woman. Chapter 4. We got through 12 last week. I want to just remind you of a couple things. Review. Again, it's about knowing where we came from. Not even where we were last week, but where we were from the beginning. When you understand that, now you understand that it's all about getting the glory and the honor and the immortality back. There's a reason 7 women are taking hold of one man in the last days. Why? Because they want the glory and the honor and the immortality that the man has who has set his life in such a way that he's come back into covenant with Yehovah, the new creature. The new creature is not a new creature. It's just a renewed creature. We were that way when Adam was created. But we fell. And so now we're going back to that creature and becoming remade in the image of Elohim. Verse 3, we talked about Cain. Remember Cain, bringing an offering to Yehovah from the ground. What did it say? From the fruit of the ground. Well, that's where he was investing his time. Abel, was investing his time where? With the sheep. Well, they both brought an offering. And, when you read Torah, you really don't really understand what's going on. It says, and in the process of time, it came to pass that Cain brought an offering, brought a minka of fruit from the ground. Okay, well, that's what he did. Doesn't sound like a problem to me. But we're going to find out in Yasher today that what he brought was the here, let me see if I even have it in here. He brought from the inferior fruit of the ground before Yehovah. And Abel brought the best that he had, and the fat. Well, I used to think, well, maybe it's because he brought the Seder, and Abel brought what he was supposed to bring. Yeah, I guess I can't go there because I don't see that that's the case any longer. It doesn't appear to me to be. We're talking about a minka. Well, that's certainly not the Passover. So they're bringing something else before Yehovah. Did Adam bring something? It doesn't say, does it? Well, so we moved on. The next thing we were talking about was the ground. This was a really important thing for us to understand. It says, and he said, what have you done? The voice of your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground. And we saw some very interesting things about the ground. Look at this. This is Numbers 35:33. So you shall not pollute the land where you are. This is Numbers 35 is all about cities of refuge and finding a dead body on your land, a dead man on your land. I don't think it's about a dead woman. It's about a dead man on your land. Listen to what it says. So you shall not pollute the land where you are, for blood defiles the land. And no covering can be made for the land, for the blood that is shed on it, except the blood of him who shed it. The murderer, the Rashak, not the Shakat, the one who killed somebody, but the murderer, the Rashak. Thou shalt not Rashak. No covering can be made for the land, for the blood that is shed on it, except by the blood of him who shed it. This is why the avenger of blood is going after the Rashak, even if it's done by accident. Because if we don't take care of that blood that has been shed on our ground, our land won't produce for us anymore. And this is the problem that Cain had. The ground wasn't going to produce for him anymore. So what did he have to do? Well, that's exactly what's going on in Genesis 12. Look what it says. When you till the ground, it shall no longer yield its strength to you. Now, my crazy Bible says, a fugitive and a vagabond, you shall be on the earth. You know what? That is standard operating procedure for practically every translation. Fugitive, vagabond. Many will say fugitive, wanderer. Okay, wanderer, that's great. Great word, that's what it is. Wanderer, he's a wanderer. Homeless, gotta keep moving around. Why? Because he's not a fugitive, he is a forager. The word here is this word right here. Nuah, shake. Shake. This is what we're talking about. Shake. He is going around. He finds a fig tree. He's going to shake the fig tree to get the fruit out of it so he can eat. And all the other things. This is what he's doing. He's foraging. Oh, I'm not going to be able to have a home anymore. No. We're going to see, look, for the very next, 2 verses down, 16. Then Cain went out from the presence of Yehovah. Oh, don't leave the presence of Yehovah. Well, you actually have already. It's about coming back in now to the presence of Yehovah, men. Ladies, it's about learning how to be fruitful, getting a man in your life, and following your man. You're starting to see, I think, that finding the right man is a good thing. But you know what? If you've got a father, if you've got a son, getting a man in your life is what it's all about. You've got to have a man. Men, you've got to leave your Elohim and make Yehovah your only Elohim. Many of you still have this guy Jesus as your Elohim. Forsake him. He's the golden calf of the modern age, given to you by the Catholic Church. Well, I've written an awful lot about that on my blog. You got to learn it. So, this is where we left off last week, verse 12. A forager and a wanderer you shall be on the earth. And Cain said to Yehovah, my punishment is greater than I can bear. What does it mean to be a wanderer and a forager on the earth? It means you got to keep moving all the time. You don't have roots in your life. Could Cain have flocks moving with him? I think he could. I think he could. Could he still hunt wild game? Of course. But he did not have roots. And that is an important thing to understand. He had, remember, here, I guess we won't see that until the next chapter or until we start reading Yasher on this subject. But it says that he and all who were with him went from the presence of Yehovah. All who were with him. Who was with him? Did he have sons yet? He certainly had women in his life, at least one, maybe 3. Remember, he's the only son left. Adam and Eve, Adam and Hava had, we read last week, 2 daughters, 3 sons. Did some of the daughters stay with Adam and Hava? Or did they all go with the only brother who is left? Doesn't seem like there's much to stay for. Well, those are kinds of things that we don't have answers for. Those are the kinds of things that we have to look for. But we know that there were daughters. The sons came from somewhere. The sons of Cain came from somewhere, didn't they? Seth is going to be born later. Well, let's continue. Let me just check. 14. Surely you have driven me out this day from the face of the ground. You know what? Cain loved the ground. He understood what it meant to plant a seed and have it produce after its own kind. But Cain wasn't a man that was after Yehovah's own heart. Most men aren't. Most men are doing what is convenient. Cain didn't bring his best. What did it say? He brought inferior fruit of the ground. Many people don't want to bring their best to Yehovah. Many men don't want to bring their best to Yehovah. Many women don't want to bring their best to their man. They're holding back. My career, my stuff, my. And they don't understand his bone of his bone, flesh of his flesh. You're living for him. We don't get it. As Yehovah's bride, I'm living for Yehovah. My life is not my own. I spend my time here at the computer every day to teach you the way of Yehovah, to know Yehovah and his instructions for you. 15. And Yehovah said to him, therefore, whoever kills Cain, vengeance shall be taken on him sevenfold. And Yehovah set a mark on Cain, lest anyone should find him, should kill him. Well, what's that all about? I don't know. But we're going to see that very soon it is going to be Cain who is going to be killed by his great-great-grandson Lamech and his great-great-great-grandson Tubal-Cain. His seed is going to kill him. Well, it's a long time. A lot's going to happen before that. But it's going to be his own seed that's going to kill him. Isn't that interesting? It's the seed of Belial who's killing the seed of Belial. And again, the blood is not going to be answered in that case either. Wow. 16. Then Cain went out from the presence of Yehovah to dwell in the land of Nod on the east of Eden. And Cain knew his woman. Remember, there is no word for wife in Torah. You know, learning to read the scriptures, we've got to develop a new way of thinking. We see a word, but we've got to think something else. I guarantee you that this word wife is the word his ish, his isha. Let's take a look at it. I just want to show you real quick. That's not it there. Let me go to the interlinear. I want you to know, I know what I'm talking about when I'm saying these things. I've written an article about this. There is no word for wife in Torah. Here, look. Here's the word, isha. The vav here at the end says, if I can get it just to highlight, here, I'll make it bigger. I should have done this earlier, sorry. There it is right there, that vav. That vav says his isha. There is no word for wife. His isha could be his concubine. His isha could be his servant. So we got to get out of this husband-wife business. It's going to throw you off. This is his woman, his isha. Okay? It'll set you free if you begin to understand this. Going back. And Cain knew his woman, and she conceived and bore Enoch. His name is actually Enoch. Enoch. And look what it says. And he built a city and called the name of the city after the name of his son Enoch. Built a city? Built a city? Does anybody have a problem with that? You know what? We read these things and we think, well, it's in the scriptures. It must be the good thing that he did. But we don't understand that surely you have driven me out of the face of the ground. I shall be hidden from your face. I shall be. Does it say anything about for a while you're going to be a forager and a wanderer? No. So we have to understand that what Cain is doing right now is in defiance to what Yehovah told him to do. He was supposed to be a wanderer, not a city dweller. Cain built the first city, a stationary place of residence. But Yehovah told him to be a forager and a wanderer. You shall be on the earth. There was no end to that. Does Yehovah change? Does his word endure forever or not? Okay, we got to understand it in that context. You know, I love the verse. It says something like this. I am Yehovah. What I say, I will do. I am Yehovah. That's the first time that I understood why it's so important to swear in the name of Yehovah. Because when you swear in the name of Yehovah, you don't take his name in vain. Why? Because you're violating the image of Yehovah. We swear to our own hurt if we swear in the name of Yehovah. Now, we've learned the New Testament scriptures about don't swear at all. Folks, you learn lies. Okay, if it doesn't agree with Torah, don't believe it. Our foundation has got to be Torah. The third commandment says, you shall not take the name of Yehovah in vain. Okay, so what's my point? Yehovah is not speaking idle words when he says, you shall be a forager and a wanderer on the earth. There's no end to this. So now here he is building a city. Okay, does anybody have a problem with that? Here's 5:18. I don't even want to go there. That's a different Enoch. I guess my point here with this verse in 5 is, or chapter 5, is that the Enoch that we're talking about here, the Kanok that we're talking about here, the son of Cain, is a different Enoch, a different Kanok that we're talking about in 5. Same name, but it's easy to confuse the two. There's two Lamechs, two Enochs. We've got to be careful not to confuse them. So don't be confused when you're seeing this wicked man and confuse him with the righteous man in the seed or in the line of Seth. Not that all the line of Seth was righteous by any means. There's a lot of people that will tell you that. That's a bunch of hooey. Don't go there. Blood doesn't make you righteous. Repentance makes you righteous. Leaving the kingdoms of your birth makes you righteous. Following Yehovah, his statutes, his judgments, his ordinances for a man makes you righteous. Nothing more. Okay, 18. To Enoch was born Irad. Now, to Enoch, they say anything about the woman? No. To Enoch was born Irad. And Irad begat Makushyael. Here it is, Makuyael. And Makuyael begat Metushael. And Metushael begat Lamech. Does it say anything about their wives? No, it's not about the women. It's about the men. It's about the seed that's coming from Cain and moving on down through the generations. Seed produces seed produces seed. For the most part, these are all seed of Belial. Worthless and unprofitable men, just like all the men who are out there today. Ask any woman. It's the men begetting sons. Did they beget daughters? Of course they begot daughters. But they're not talking about the daughters. It's not about the ladies. It's about the men. So let's move on. 19. Then Lamech took for himself 2 women. Two nashim is the word that we're talking about there, the plural form of isha, nashim. I always like to give you the Hebrew so that you can begin to get familiar with this. We talk about it constantly as we're going to go through the scriptures. I want you to learn some of these things and have eyes that see a little bit better. Then Lamech took himself two nashim, two women. The name of one was Adah, and the name of the second was Zillah. Well, you know what? We don't know in Torah where these ladies are coming from, or even why they're important. But remember, I was just saying that it didn't say anything about the women. Arad begat this person, and the next person begat this person, and the next person begat that person, right? Didn't talk about the ladies. Now all of a sudden it's talking about the ladies. Why? See, that's what you got to learn to ask yourself. And here's a principle in Torah. A woman is not generally even mentioned in Torah unless they are going to give birth to a significant man. Now, in this case, I think we're going to find that they're going to give birth to a significant woman. But where these two ladies come from is extremely important for us to see as it relates to the last days of the antediluvian world. Yes, let's take a look at this. Who are these ladies? I put, so why are these two women mentioned? Let me slide this up. These two women are the righteous daughters of Canaan in the line of Seth. Remember, we're talking here, Genesis 4 is all about whose line? Cain's line. That's right. So now we're talking about two daughters of Canaan. Again, similar sounds, similar understandings, but we're talking about two completely different men. Remember, this one got kicked out of the presence of Yehovah. Canaan, on the other hand, is an incredible man, a Yasher man who's going to lead hundreds, probably thousands, back to the Elohim, Ruach Elohim, in the last days of the antediluvian world. Kind of the start of the last days of the antediluvian world. We're 300 years in, and this man Canaan is doing some amazing things. So look what it says. Seth lived 105 years and begat Enosh. After he begat Enosh, Seth lived 807 years and had sons and daughters. So all the days of Seth were 912 years, and he died. Enosh lived 90 years and begot. Enosh begot Canaan. That gives us the context. So now, here is Yasher talking about Canaan. Yasher chapter 2, verse 10. And Enosh lived 90 years, and he begat Canaan. That's what we just saw in Torah. And Canaan grew up, and he was 40 years old, and he became wise, and had knowledge and skill in all wisdom. He reigned over all the sons of Adam. And he led the sons of Adam to wisdom and knowledge. For Canaan was a very wise man and had understanding in all wisdom. And with all his wisdom, he ruled over spirits and demons. I'm not going to go there. Thank you very much. And Canaan knew by his wisdom that Elohim would destroy the sons of men. Oh my gosh! He sees that this world cannot go on with men forsaking Yehovah, his eternal and unchanging ways. And Canaan knew by his wisdom that Elohim would destroy the sons of men for having sinned upon the earth. And Yehovah would in the latter days bring upon them the waters of the flood. Canaan was a prophet of Yehovah. He knew him that well. And in those days, Canaan wrote upon tablets of stone what was to take place in time to come. Latter days of the antediluvian world, the world before the flood. What was to take place in the time to come? And he put them in his treasures. Ooh, in his treasures. Here's a man that treasures the word of Yehovah. Oh, that's a man after my own heart. And Canaan reigned over the whole earth. And he turned some of the sons of men to the service of Elohim. Oh my gosh, isn't that beautiful words? That's what I want to do, you guys. I want to turn you to the service of Elohim. You can't serve two masters. It's not about serving you. Serve you, die. What does he say? This is Yeshua, they said this. But it's true. At least they said he said it. He said that the man who saves his life will lose it. But the man who lays down his life in service to Yehovah will save it. I'm interested in saving lives. I want to turn some of the sons of men to the service of Elohim, Ruach Elohim, and his Ruach kingdom. And when Cain was 70 years old, he begat 3 sons and 2 daughters. This is the righteous man. He had a woman in his life. And these are the names of the children of Canaan. The Taphim of Canaan. Here's their names. The name of the firstborn, Malaleel. The second, Enan. The third, Mered. And their sisters, look at who it is, Adah and Zillah. They are the righteous daughters of a prophet of Elohim. These are the 5 children of Canaan that were born to him. And Lamech, the son of Matusheel, became related to Canaan by marriage. You hear what's going on? The line of Seth and the line of Cain are coming together by marriage. Why is this important? I think we're going to see it when we read Yasher. Yeah, we may see it even before we're done because I've got some links that go to this. But this is who Adah and Zillah are. Now it says, Adah bore, who'd she bear? Yaval. And he was the father of those who dwell. Now I like this. He was the father of them who are, it's actually, how can I say this? It's the tent, the ohel, is singular. So this is not a plural word. So we're talking about one who, I could say maybe those who are tent dwellers and have cattle. That's what I want to say. Those who are tent dwellers and have cattle. Does this sound like maybe he was doing what Yehovah told Cain to do? Forger and a wanderer. Those who are tent dwellers and have cattle. I think he was going back and doing what he was supposed to do. That's how it appears to me. His brother's name was Yuval. He was the father of those who play harp and flute. And as for Zillah, she also bore Tubal-Cain. Well, we don't know it, but Zillah bore Tubal-Cain in her old age. She was barren. Ooh, very interesting story. Again, we've got to go back and get some other information. I love Yasher. Yasher is kind of the rest of the story. And as for Zillah, she bore Tubal-Cain, an instructor of every kind of craftsman in bronze and iron. And the sister of Tubal-Cain was, who was this? Naamah. Again, here's another woman being named. Why is Naamah being named? Well, let's take a look at this. Again, same principle in Torah. The birth of a woman is not generally even acknowledged in Torah unless they're going to give birth to a significant man. So we must ask ourselves, why is Naamah mentioned? I think this. I think it's likely that Naamah is going to be the woman of Noah. Let's find out. Here's Yasher, 5:12. Noah, the son of Lamech. Remember, this is the Lamech on the Seth side, not the Lamech that had Adah and Zillah as their women, and bore Naamah. Noah, the son of Lamech, refrained from taking a woman in those days to beget sons. Hear that? Sons. Oh, this is so cool, you guys. You got to open your eyes to be able to see this. To beget sons. For he said, surely Elohim will destroy the earth. Why would he say that? How could he know that? He knew that because his grandpa, Canaan, told him so. Why have any more sons if they're all going to die? Is what he's thinking. Surely Elohim will destroy the earth. Wherefore shall I beget sons? And Noah was a just man. He was perfect in his generation. And Yehovah chose him to raise up seed from his seed upon the face of the earth. Do you hear what's going on here? We're talking about begetting sons. And now we're talking about seed from your seed. Here's what I want you to see. Sons and seed are synonymous. When we talk about the sons of Belial, we're not talking about the sons of Belial. The sons of Belial will be the Benim of Belial. Those are his immediate sons. I have sons, Wes and John. Those are my seed. My sons. No, they're my sons, but they're my seed too. But they're my Benim. But when we talk about B'nai, see, this says B'nai Belial. B'nai Noah. Every man is a B'nai of Noah because we all have a common seed. But every man is also the B'nai of Belial because we have that same spiritual seed in us as well. The new creation that we weren't supposed to have. It's all about getting back to the real creation that we're supposed to be. But here's what I want you to see. When we talk about seed, we're talking about multi-generational seed, producing after its own kind from generation to generation to generation. Sons are seed. They're being used here synonymously. Zerah and Benim and B'nai and Ben, all seed. There are no lady seed. Ladies don't have seed. We talked about that. Remember, we were talking about the seed of the woman the week before. Ooh, that's a really interesting story. That's what we're talking about. The seed of the woman is going to bruise your head. Talking about Satan's head, Belial's seed. The seed, the righteous woman, remember we're talking about the woman, is Israel. As a young man Baal's a virgin, so shall Yehovah Baal his sons. They're the woman, the virgin, the ones who have come back to him, who have the glory and the honor and the immortality. Well, let's go back to our story. I wanted you to see son, seed, very important for future understandings. And Yehovah said unto Noah, take unto thee a woman, and beget sons, for I have seen thee righteous before me in this generation. And thou shalt raise up seed, beget sons, raise up seed. There it is again, Zerah. Whoops. Let me do this. Edit, undo, Control B. There we go. And thou shalt raise up seed, and thy sons with thee in the midst of the earth. And Noah went and took a woman, and he chose Naamah, the daughter of Enoch. And she was 580 years old. And Noah was 498 years old when he took Naamah for a woman. Noah was 82 years younger than Naamah. But now, who's the Enoch? Is this the Enoch on the righteous side? Or is this the righteous side? Is this the Enoch in chapter 5 or is this the Enoch in chapter 4? Cain's Enoch or Seth's Enoch? See, that's what we got to have to ask ourselves. Well, it can go either way. Let's find out. Here's Enoch. Lived 65 years and begat Methuselah. Okay, this is the righteous Enoch. After he got Methuselah, Enoch walked with Elohim 300 years and had sons and daughters. So all the days of Enoch were 365 years, and Enoch walked with Elohim. And he was not. And Elohim took him, and Elohim took him. Methuselah lived 187 years and begat Lamech. After he begat Lamech, Methuselah lived 782 years, and had sons and daughters. So all the days of Methuselah were 969 years, and he died. Lamech lived 182 years and had a son, and he called his name Noah. He says, this will be a comfort concerning our work and the toil of our hands because of the ground which Yehovah has cursed. That's Genesis, introduction to Noah. Now the question is, who did Noah take as his woman? Two of Canaan's, a very righteous man. Wait till you see what Canaan was like. It's so exciting. We're not going to get to it till next week, though. Two of Canaan's daughters were Adah and Zillah. Here they are. We read part of this earlier today. I'm going to give you a little this and a little bit more. And when Canaan was 70 years old, he begat 3 sons and 2 daughters. And these are the names of the sons and daughters. I'm going to go through that. We read that already. Lamech, the son of Methuselah, became related to Canaan by marriage. And he took his 2 daughters for his woman. And Adah conceived and bore a son to Lamech, and she called his name Yavel. And she begat again, conceived, and bare a son, and called his name Yuval. But listen to what it says about Zillah. And Zillah, her sister, was barren in those days, and had no offspring. For in those days the sons of men began to trespass against Yehovah, to trespass the commandments which he had commanded to Adam, to be fruitful and to multiply. Does this sound a little bit like today, you guys? Listen to what it says. For some of the sons of men caused their women to drink a draught that would render them barren, in order that they might retain their figures, and whereby their beautiful appearance might not fade. They wanted to keep their wives good looking, wanted to keep them shapely. Does it sound like something we're talking about even in this day and age? Giving them a draught to drink that would render them barren. We're talking about birth control. And in the end of days and years, when Zillah became old, Yehovah opened her womb. Woohoo! And she conceived. And bare a son, and called his name Tubal-Cain, saying, after I have withered away, have I obtained from Yehovah Almighty. El Shaddai is who we're talking about. The provider. And she conceived again and bare a daughter. And she called her name Naamah, the very same name. Again, a merger of these two lines may be taking place right now. For she said, after I have withered away, have I obtained pleasure and delight? Now, look at this. And Lamech, the son of Methuselah, took for himself, this is another thing that makes it hard. Here we have Lamech, the son of Methuselah, Enoch, the son of Cain, the son of Adam, is Naamah's great-great-grandfather. Okay, so now we're talking about marrying the daughter of Enoch. Is this who we're talking about? Naamah, the daughter of Enoch on Cain's side? Remember, we're talking about large, multi-generational households. Now, look at this. It says, but all this said, now we read this in Yasher. And these are the generations of Enoch. Methuselah, okay, these are the sons, the children of Enoch, Kanok. Here they are, Methuselah, Elisha, Elimelech, 3 sons, and their sisters Milcah and Naamah. Now, Naamah sounds very similar to Naamah. And this one is the daughter of Enoch, the direct descendants of Enoch. We're talking his daughter. So, did Noah take Lamech's daughter or his aunt? Lamech being the son of Cain, son of, he's the son of somebody else, but he's in Cain's line. Or his aunt. Really, ultimately, it does not matter. It's not about the woman, it's about the seed, isn't it? Okay, that's what we have to understand. 23. Then Lamech said to his Nashim, his women, Adah and Zillah, hear my voice. Women of Lamech, listen to my speech. For I have killed a man for wounding me, even a young man for hurting me. Where does this even come from? Talk about out of nowhere. All of a sudden, we're being introduced to a completely different subject. What's going on? There's no answers to this in Torah, is there? We have no clue what's going on. We read it, we think, well, okay. Now listen what it says. If Cain shall be avenged sevenfold, then Lamech 77-fold. What? What? This is in the same line where we're talking about all the descendants of Cain, all the way down through Lamech, who begat the potential mother of our world. Talk about something just completely out of context. Where does this fit in? Well, Yasher again is going to help us understand this. Let me read you a portion from Yasher. And Lamech was old and advanced in years, and his eyes were dim that he could not see. Remember, Tubal-Cain was the son of his old age, because Zilhah was on that drought that made her barren. Yehovah healed her in her old age. After I'm withered away, shall I have a son? She said. And Tubal-Cain, his son, was leading him. And it was one day that Lamech went into the field, and Tubal-Cain, his son, was with him. And whilst they were walking in the field, Cain, the son of Adam, advanced towards them. For Lamech was very old and could not see much, and Tubal-Cain, his son, was very young. Oh, bad mixture when you're going hunting, I'd say. And Tubal-Cain told his father to draw his bow, and with the arrows he smote Cain, who was yet far off. And he slew him, for he appeared to them to be an animal. And the arrows entered Cain's body, although he was a distance from them. And he fell to the ground and died. Here's Cain, remember, who had the mark on his forehead, not to have anybody kill him. And Yehovah requited Cain's evil according to his wickedness. Requited, repaid, payback. Repaid Cain for his wickedness, according to his wickedness which he had done to his brother Abel, according to the word of Yehovah which he had spoken. And it came to pass, when Cain had died, that Lamech and Tubal-Cain went to see the animal which they had slain. And they saw, and behold, Cain, their grandfather, had fallen dead upon the earth. Oh no, we killed Grandpa! And Lamech was very much grieved at having done this. And in the clapping of his hands, together he struck his son and caused his death. And the women of Lamech heard what Lamech had done, and they sought to kill him. Ladies, don't seek to kill your man. Let Yehovah deal with him. And the women of Lamech hated him from that day, because he slew Cain and Tubal-Cain. And the women of Lamech separated from him, and would not hearken to him in those days. Well, they did eventually come back to Lamech. But again, ladies, remember your place. The servant doesn't question the master. Let Yehovah deal with the master, not your place. I've never seen a woman leaving her man in Torah. It doesn't happen. But I have speculated that there may be a time in this wicked day and age where men are not killed for killing another man. Remember, if they were living correctly, that blood would have had to been taken care of. And Lamech would have been killed. But he wasn't. This is kind of where we're at these days. We have wicked men who are doing things that are deserving of death. Sleeping with their daughter. Sleeping with another man. Those are things that get you killed in Yehovah's kingdom. But You can't kill him right now because we're living in Babylon. Well, I wrote this article. Let me take you to it real quick, just so you know where it's at. It is on my blog. This is an important thing for you to understand. It's in my Woman's Place of Safety series. Right here is creation of the woman. Here is a woman's place of safety. And number 3, right here, is the one that you want to listen to. Is there a time where a woman can separate from her man? I personally think it's like jumping from the frying pan into the fire. Remember, a woman's got to have a covering in her life. So you may be cutting off your nose despite your face. But there may be a time. There may be a time. I would never tell a woman, I would never counsel a woman to leave her man. I won't do it. You be the woman of worth and let Yehovah deal with the son of Belial that you're married to. Not your place. Just my thoughts. So, now we understand more what's going on with why Lamech is saying this to his Nashim, his women. And this may be why this may help us understand more. It says, if Cain shall be avenged sevenfold, then Lamech 77-fold. Well, I put, that's an empty threat. What authority does he base that on? Yehovah's the one who said sevenfold. Where's he coming from? Did Yehovah say that? It's an empty threat. Maybe it's to keep him alive so that nobody kills him to take care of the blood. If Cain can get away with it, maybe I can get away with it. Who is Cain's brother? Remember, it's the brother who's responsible to take care of that blood. I suppose if the brother's gone, then it could be a descendant of the brother. Seth was his brother. Seth was born by then, easily. Because remember, Lamech, or Tubal-Cain, came from Lamech, who took the daughters of Canaan. So Seth obviously is alive because we have Seth, Enosh, and then Canaan, and then the daughters that came from him. So yeah, he's alive, but yeah, Seth didn't come after him to kill him. What's going on? Is this his way of preventing himself from being killed? I wonder if it is. Well, we're going to switch even to another subject right now. And if you really think about this subject, we're talking about Adam, and Adam knew his woman. They don't even say Hava, they say his woman again. And she bore a son and named him Seth. This could easily be at the beginning of the next chapter. And if I were the one dividing the chapters, I would have put this with the next chapter because the next chapter is all about the line of Seth. But they didn't. So here's my note on this. Well, let me finish the verse. And Adam knew his woman again, and she bore a son and named him Seth. Now, this gives us the idea that this is her saying this. I personally think it's him that's saying this. It says, for Elohim has appointed another seed for me instead of Abel, whom Cain killed. Now, you'll see why I say that as we go through the entire next chapter. At this point, you might want to argue this. I personally think these are the words of Adam. Adam knew his wife, and she bore a son and named him Seth, for Elohim has appointed another seed for me instead of Abel, whom Cain killed. This verse begins a flashback and could easily start the next chapter. Okay, that's what I was just saying. It's important to note that the seed is a son. These words are used interchangeably. Yes, this is really important that we see this. Bore a son and appointed another seed for me. You see why I use this word seed when we're talking about Israel's seed, the spiritually born men, the Ezra men at that, not all men, Ezra men, the ones who have come back and have the glory and the honor and the immortality, who are in the image of Elohim. His bride, not Yeshua's bride, Yehovah's bride. Yeshua, if anything, was part of the bride. He wasn't a broom. Folks, get out of those bad ideas. It's important to note that the seed is a son. These words are used interchangeably. Hava's name is not even used here. His woman, his Isha. 26, last verse of chapter 4. And as for Seth, to him also a son was born. And he named him, who named him? Seth named his son Enosh. Then men began to call on the name of Yehovah. Then men began to call on the name of Yehovah. You know, I never questioned that before. But I want you to see something about the birth of Enosh. Enosh means mortal man. Enosh is really how you're going to say it. Enosh means mortal man. Let's take a look at it. The line of Cain seems to have gotten a huge head start on Seth's line. Seems to, because all these guys have been born before we even got to Seth being born. But we don't understand that verse 25 is actually a flashback going back in time to now what's going on with the line of Seth. So they're actually going simultaneously. Don't treat the scriptures as if they're chronological. They're not. Oftentimes, we're going back and forth in time, and we can become confused if we don't do it. This is kind of what happens with people who, chapter 1, Genesis, the creation of the man and his woman. In the image of Elohim, he created him, male and female, he created them. Then, in chapter 2, we have the man being created and the woman being created. And so what happens is they tend to think that this is a different man and a different woman, not realizing that this is the big picture in Genesis 1 and then breaking on down in Genesis 2 and 3. We don't see it. And so now we got two creations going on for some people. No, we got to move beyond that. Don't think of it as chronological. Understand it in the context. Yehovah often gives the big picture and then breaks it down. So, the line of Cain seems to have gotten a huge head start on Seth's line. But remember, Torah is not always sequential in its presentation. And seeing that Adah and Zillah came from Lamech, from Canaan, helps us to see that. Remember, we said that Seth had to definitely be around at this point because he's got descendants who have children who are marrying people in Cain's line. And as for Seth, to him also a son was born, and he named him Enosh. Then Enosh, mortal man, began to call on the name of Yehovah. This is a different word. Look what it says, kalal. It's talking about wounding, dissolving, profaning the name of Yehovah. Does that sound like men began to call on the name of Yehovah? To me, it sounds like men began to profane the name of Yehovah. But now, look at what it says in Yasher, because this pulled it together for me. It says in Yasher 2. In fact, we're going to go there next. And Seth lived 105 years, and he begat a son. And Seth called the name of his son Enosh, saying, listen to what he says, Because in that time the sons of men began to multiply and to afflict their souls and hearts by transgressing and rebelling against Elohim. Oh my goodness. How could we be so far from the truth? No, this is the time where all of creation was turning away from Yehovah, not beginning to call on the name of Yehovah. This is talking about the mortal men, Enosh men. So which is right? Well, I personally think that Yasher gives us greater light than Torah does right here. Again, we got translators. This Kalel. This is not began to call. This, what was the word we used on that again? That was such an interesting word. I'm going to go back up. I want to remember that. Profane, wound, dissolve, break, profane. Oh my gosh. I think there's something more going on here, you guys. We've got to see this. And maybe that's why they included 25 and 26 in chapter 4 instead of chapter 5 with all the Yasher men. Could that be? Because this was the time that men began to reject Yehovah. What did it say? Oh my gosh, look what it says. Began to multiply and afflict their souls and hearts by transgressing and rebelling against Elohim. You guys, when you refuse to line your life up with Yehovah's eternal, with Ruach Elohim, Yehovah's eternal and unchanging ways, we afflict our own soul and our own heart. Oh my gosh! And we don't even know it. We think all is good. All's right with the world. No, it's not right with the world. We are sons of Belial, and something's got to change. We have afflicted our own souls and our own hearts. Oh, isn't that amazing? Souls and hearts. Why is soul leading the heart? This is nefesh and lavav. Why is the soul mentioned before the lavav? In Torah, you'll never see soul mentioned before the lavav. It's always you love Yehovah with all your heart and with all your soul, all your lavav and all your nefesh. Remember, nefesh is thoughts and emotions. The heart has to do with the spirit that only Elohim can discern in a man. It's backwards. It was been backwards from the garden. When she saw that the fruit was beautiful to the eyes and able to make one wise. Remember, it was the reverse, going from the flesh to the spirit. Because this was a new kind that was getting created in the earth. Enosh. Here's Enosh. This is Ancient Hebrew Lexicon of the Bible. No, I take it back. This is Brown Dry Briggs. Not one of my favorites. He says, man. But remember, Brown Dry Briggs, they're worthless, really. All they're doing is they're taking what everybody else says and they're merging them all together. So you're really not getting a definition. It's not a concordance. They treat it like a concordance, but it's not. It says it comes from this word, 582. Okay, that's more beneficial. But 582 is Anush. Mortal man. We're talking about men. We're not talking about ladies. We're talking about Enosh, a masculine noun meaning man. In the singular, this word occurs in poetry and prayers. This word may derive from anas, meaning to be weak or sick. Does this sound like men who have afflicted their souls, their soul and their hearts by transgressing the words of Elohim? I think this is where we're going with it. Enosh began to call on the name of Elohim. That's what it wants to say. That's what they want to say. You know what? Most people are going to translate it very similar. Then it was beginning made to call on the name of Yehovah. Then it was begun to call on the name of Yehovah. That's the literal translation, supposedly. But I think they're holding the what should I call it? The broad road line. I think there's more to be seen here. Well, wait till you see how the next chapter fits together. Well, not the next chapter, how Yasher fits together when we talk about these men who were afflicting their souls and their hearts. So let's now turn to Yasher, or shall I say, back to Yasher. How are we doing on time? Wow, 12:30 already. My goodness, the time goes by so fast. Okay. Oh, well, I'm thinking about it. I put together, well, I've got a chart here on my site. This is what I call the age chart. And it's talking about Adam through Joseph. Dates they were born, dates they died, dates they had their significant son. Remember, we're talking about Yasher men. Teaching Yasher men, Yasher man, Yasher man, Yasher man, Yasher man, flowing on down from Adam to Joseph. It's a really useful thing. I want to give it to you today. Let me do this. If you go to the conference room, well, you're in the conference room. Let me just send this. I'm going to pull it up for you. I think it's important for you to see it. Dropbox, public, age chart, copy public link, send public link, paste. There it is right there. If you click on that link, you can download, this chart will come up, and then you can save this link for yourselves. This is a really valuable tool, and you'll see it fits perfectly with the scriptures. In fact, I developed this tool, a rough tool, and then I found this on, what was it called? I think New to Torah. And I was so impressed by it, I thought, this is exactly what my conclusions are. And he did a great job of putting it together. What was the place that did this? I'm sure it was New to Torah. He's very messianic, this particular man, and he really, New to Torah. He actually took me off his website because I started teaching people that Yeshua is the golden calf. It's not about Yeshua. It never was about the Yeshua. It's about Yehovah. It's about the Passover. It's about the time of life when a man can become the Yasher man, the son of Elohim, Israel, the Ezra man. Well, we love our doctrines and traditions, and so he ditched me, but it'll be to his own lament, I'm sure, eventually. Okay, so let's go back to Yasher. Here we are. We left off right here with the birth of Cain, I think. Here's the last verse we read in Yasher several weeks ago. And Yehovah Elohim, remember, that's what he's called, Yehovah Elohim. There was nobody else until then. Yehovah Elohim. There were no other Elohim. Adam made himself an Elohim. Elohim kind. But that was a new creature that Yehovah never intended, the son of Belial. He says he drove them. Well, we know that he did not drive them out of the garden. I pointed that out to you today. He sent him, Ha-Adam, out of the garden that day and from the Garden of Eden to till the ground from which they were taken. Was she taken from the ground? No, she wasn't taken from the ground. He was taken from the ground. We've got to get beyond this. And they went. No, he went to dwell in the east of the garden. Well, of course, where he goes, she goes. She's he. bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh. When you understand that, you can see it. And Adam knew his woman, Hava, and she bore 2 sons and 3 daughters. That's where we left off last time. Let's see if we can get through some of this today. And she called the name of the firstborn Cain, saying, I have obtained a man from Yehovah. And the name of the other she called Havel. For she sighed, in vanity we came into the earth, and in vanity we shall be taken from it. Wow. Do you think she's kind of got the idea that because of the fall, they're in a bad place? I think she sees that. Vanity, vanity. All is vanity, is what Ecclesiastes says. Worthless and unprofitable things. We came into the earth, and in vanity we shall be taken from it. The boys grew up, and their father gave them a possession. Not their mother. She doesn't own anything. He owns it. He takes care of it. He's the caretaker. Their father gave them a possession in the land. And Cain was a tiller of the ground, and Abel a keeper of sheep. And it was at the expiration of a few years that they brought an approximating offering to Yehovah. Approximating offering. When I saw this, I thought, I got to go look that up in Torah and see what it says. And I found it to be a mincha offering. Remember, the mincha offering is what we talk about in Leviticus 2. It's usually bread, grain, wine, those kinds of things. A mincha offering. And they brought an approximating offering to Yehovah, is what this translator said. And Cain brought from the fruit of the ground, and Abel brought from the firstlings of his flock, from the fat thereof. And Elohim turned and inclined to Abel and his offering. And a fire came down from Yehovah, from heaven, and consumed it. Oh man, can you imagine how cool that would be? We're talking Elisha on Mount Carmel, bringing fire down on the earth to the altar. Wow. And unto Cain and his offering Yehovah did not turn, and he did not incline to it, for he had brought the inferior fruit of the ground before Yehovah. And Cain was jealous against his brother Abel, Havel, on account of this, and sought a pretext to slay him. And in some time after, Cain and Abel, his brother, went one day into the field to do their work. And they were both in the field, Cain tilling and plowing his ground, and Abel feeding his flock. And the flocks passed that part which Cain had plowed in the field, and it sorely grieved Cain on this account. You know what? It would sorely grieve me also if that happened to my ground. I know what it takes to sow seed into the ground and the care that you have to take, especially as it's just getting started. And here's a flock coming through his field. Cain approached his brother Abel in anger, and he said unto him, What is there between me and thee, that thou comest to dwell and bring thy flock to feed in my land? It's not like there's not more land in the world. And Abel answered his brother Cain and said unto him, What is there between me and thee, that thou shalt eat the flesh of my flock and clothe thyself with their wool? And now therefore put off the wool of my sheep, which thou hast clothed thyself. Recompense me, pay me back for their fruit and flesh which thou hast eaten. How do you eat the fruit of a sheep or goat? Milk, cheese, and the flesh is the meat. Pay me back. which thou hast eaten, and when thou hast done this, I will go from thy land as thou hast said. You know what? Is Abel being fair? You know, you can argue that he's not being fair. Maybe he's being unreasonable. But is that a reason? If somebody's unreasonable to you, does that give you a reason to kill him? No, that's Yehovah's domain, isn't it? We're going to see, and we saw it 2 weeks ago when we talked about blood on the ground, that you don't kill a man. Pretty interesting. Well, let's continue. And Cain said to his brother Abel, surely if I slay thee this day, who will require thy blood from me? Well, we saw that Yehovah heard what the land said. The ground cries out to me because of the blood of thy brother. And Abel answered Cain, saying, surely Elohim has made us in the earth. He will avenge my cause. Cain had a much better perspective on what was going on. He will require thy blood from thee. Should thou slay me, for Yehovah is the judge and arbitrator. He has the final say, no matter what you think, Cain. And it is he who will repay man according to his evil. You know what? I'll bet you this says, who will requite the man. Ha, Adam. I'll bet you we don't have the Hebrew, but I'll bet you that's what it says. According to his evil. And the wicked man according to the wickedness that he may do on the earth. Let me show you this. This is a couple verses that I pulled up. Remember I said, I bet it's the man. And I'll say that because of this. This is Jeremiah 17, 9 through 10. It says, the heart is deceitful above all things, desperately wicked. Who can know it? I, Yehovah, search the heart. Remember, the heart is that thing that only Yehovah can discern in a man. But he discerns it how? Like this. He says, I test the mind, even to give every man. This is not Adam, this is Ish, to give every man. Ish, there are no lady Ish. According to his ways, according to the fruit of his doings. Yehovah judges all men according to their hearts? No, according to the fruit of their doing. Yet you have stupid things in the New Testament, like Yeshua saying, if a man thinks it in his heart, he's done it already. Folks, you learn lies. Yehovah doesn't judge anybody by their thoughts. He judges them by their actions. You got to have 2 or 3 witnesses. And the earth and the heavens can be 2 of the witnesses when you do it in secret. Look what it says, Ecclesiastes 12, 13, and 14, the summary of all of Ecclesiastes. Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear Elohim and keep his commandments. For this is Adam's all. This is not Adam's all. This is Adam's all. This is the man's all. We're not talking about the ladies. For Elohim will bring every what? Thought? Every imagination? No, every work into judgment, including every secret thing, whether good or evil. Well, that's the summation of the book that's talking about vanity, vanity. All is vanity. What's the conclusion? Serve Elohim. Give glory to him, for this is Ha-Adam's all. You want to live? You want to prosper? You want to live eternally? Learn to become what you were created to be. A man was created to be in the image of Elohim. A woman was created to be an etzer kenegdo to her man. Do what you were created to do, and you're going to live. Yehovah will see to it, because you're being fruitful. And now, if thou shalt slay me here, surely Elohim knows thy secret views. Yes, this is what we were just reading about. Including every secret thing. You think nobody saw it, but the ground cried out to Yehovah, and will judge thee for the evil which thou didst declare to do unto me this day. Had he sinned yet? No, he didn't sin until he did it. That's the sin. Thinking it wasn't the sin. Doing it was the sin. And when Cain heard the words which Abel his brother had spoken, behold, the anger of Cain was kindled against his brother Abel for declaring this thing, for speaking righteousness. He's mad at him. What's the verse? Psalms 29, the last or second to the last verse of Psalms 29 says that the wicked man is an abomination to the righteous, and the righteous is an abomination to the wicked. No, wicked men don't want to hear righteousness spoken to them. They love their wickedness. And Cain hastened and rose up and took an iron part of his plowing instrument, with which he suddenly smote his brother and slew him. And Cain spilt the blood of his brother Abel upon the earth, and the blood of Abel streamed upon the earth before the flock. Isn't it interesting that Yehovah wants to make it known to us that this blood of Cain was spilt on the earth? There's something bigger going on here, and unless you know all the scriptures, line upon line, precept upon precept, here a little, there a little, you'll miss it. And after Cain repented, having slain his brother, he was sadly grieved. And he wept over him, and it vexed him, it saddened him, troubled him, disquieted him, afflicted him exceedingly. And Cain rose up and dug a hole in a field, wherein he put his brother's body, and he turned the dust over it. And Yehovah knew what Cain had done. Thought? No, done to his brother. And Yehovah appeared to Cain and said to him, where is Abel thy brother that was with thee? And Cain, it says, disassembled. Some of these words I just have to look up. Concealed under false appearance, disguised, lied, and said, I do not know. Am I my brother's keeper? And Yehovah said unto him, what hast thou done? The voice of thy brother's blood cries out unto me from the ground where thou hast slain him. Again, the ground, the blood went into the ground. The ground, the earth is a witness. The heavens and the earth are witnesses against us. For thou hast slain thy brother, and hast disassembled, lied, deceived before me, and didst imagine in thy heart that I saw thee not, nor knew all thy actions. Do you see the fruit of his actions and his deeds? It's all about what the man does. That's how men are judged. But thou didst this thing and didst slay thy brother for naught. And because he spoke rightly to thee. Oh, here it is right here. Proverbs 29:27. An unjust man is an abomination to the righteous, and he who is upright in the way is an abomination to the wicked. The fear of man brings a snare, but those who trust in Yehovah shall be safe. And now, therefore, cursed be thou from the ground, which opened its mouth to receive thy brother's blood from thy hand, and wherein thou didst bury him. Well, listen to the curse that Yehovah is putting on Cain. And it shall be, when thou shalt till it, it shall no more give thee its strength, as in the beginning. For thorns and thistles shall the ground produce. Oh my goodness. Can you eat thorns? How about thistles? The land has been defiled and can no longer produce as it should for him. And now listen what he says. This is Yehovah speaking. Remember what Yehovah says he will do. Thou shalt be a forager and a wanderer in the earth until the day of thy death. Does Yehovah change? Does his word endure forever? Does he speak his words lightly? You know, many people live as though Yehovah's changed. His word's not important anymore. Don't you know? Yeshua did away with all that. Don't bet your life on it. It's going to get you killed. That's the broad road that's going to lead to destruction. You're afflicting your soul and your heart by trespassing against Yehovah's statutes and judgments and ordinances. And at that time, Cain went out from the presence of Yehovah. Oh, having to leave the presence of Yehovah. We have no idea how serious that is. From the place where he was, and he went moving and wandering, foraging and wandering in the land towards the east, he and all belonging to him. Oh, that's interesting. There was a caravan, perhaps. Did he have sons born to him yet? I wouldn't be surprised if he did. And Cain knew his woman in those days. See, now again, okay, he knew his woman in those days, all belonging to him. Is this a potential flashback again? I think it is. And Cain knew his woman in those days, and she conceived and bare a son, and he called his name Enoch. Okay, this is the Enoch that we were talking about. Saying, in that time, now look at what it says. This is Yasher. In that time, Yehovah began to give him rest and quiet in the earth. Is this maybe wishful thinking? We want to make it his wife thinking this, but this is not. It says, and he called his name Enoch, saying, in that time, Yehovah began to give me rest and quiet on the earth. Okay, is this what Yehovah said? Or did Yehovah say, thou shalt be a forager and a wanderer in the earth until the day of thy death? So now Yehovah's changing? Folks, again, we've got to be discerning readers. Again, line upon line, precept upon precept. Here a little, there a little. Did Yehovah give him rest and quiet in the earth? Look what it says, the next verse. And at that time, Cain built a city, and he called the city, and he built the city. Cain began to build a city, and he built the city, and he called the name of the city Enoch, according to the name of his son. For in those days Yehovah had given him rest upon the earth. Now I put that in red. Why? Because it's a lie. Yehovah's not giving him rest upon the earth. And look at what it says, the very next verse, or the next rest of the sentence. And he did not move, did not forge about and wander as in the beginning. So we're supposed to understand that Yehovah changes? No, you got it wrong. I said, what happened? What happened to thou shalt be moving and wandering on the wandering, shall be foraging and wandering on the earth until the day of thy death? Yeah, no, this is not going to happen. And Arad was born to Enoch. And Arad begat Yael. And Yael begat Shael. Well, that's the same verse we saw in Genesis 4. Here's the beginning of chapter 2. You know what? Maybe we should stop here. This is probably a good place to stop. We've got really only 6 minutes, 5 minutes left now. Let's stop here, and we'll pick this up next time, chapter 2 of Yasher. We're going to get through chapter 2. Let's see how far we're going to get. We're going to get to verse 10 before we go back to Genesis 5. We're going to read Genesis 5. That's going to be probably a fairly quick read. And then we get to come back to Yasher next week and talk about the line of Seth, especially Canaan and Enoch and Methuselah. Oh my goodness, such wonderful things to look forward to. These men, they knew things. They knew what it meant to return to Elohim and to serve him. It's about knowing Yehovah. For a man, it's about knowing Yehovah. We've got to come to know Yehovah and his eternal and unchanging ways. And that's what these Yasher men did for the men of the antediluvian world. Oh, it's such a beautiful story. And it's something, when I read Kings, Chronicles, I love those books. Why? Because when it introduces a king, it always tells you he did what was right in the sight of Yehovah, or he did evil in the sight of Yehovah. Okay, when we learn what is good and what is bad, okay, this guy did right in the sight of Yehovah. What did he do? Let's learn what he did and emulate it. This guy did evil in the sight of Yehovah. Let's learn what he did and not do that. And that way we get to learn righteousness. We get to know Yehovah, what makes him happy, what makes him sad. Well, there's a lot to learn. Pretty interesting stuff. Thank you for joining me today. Remember, you can go to YouTube. If you haven't heard 1, 2, and 3, really even 4 of Genesis, G1, G2, G2, 3, and G4 is how I have these numbered. They're foundational. You've got to hear those 4 teachings to really begin to understand even what we understood today. You wouldn't understand what we said today if we didn't understand what happened in those first 4 chapters, or first 3 chapters, 4 teachings. All right, well, thank you for joining me. I love you tons. Remember, I'm your friend. You may not like sometimes what I have to say, but you know what? Take the time, look it up, and see that what I said is so. If Yehovah's word is important to you, you want to emulate it. All right, love you tons. Bye now.